Hello, welcome to the Yetti Den. Today we are talking about Fallout New Vegas, the Ultimate Edition, because I finally finished the DLC. And when I say finish, I am not a completionist. I made it through the main story, so take that as you're listening. If you're a completionist and want to dive even further, I'm sure there's lots of unexplored elements of the DLC. But for me, my goal is to play through most of Bethesda's RPGs that they've released in the last 20 years. So I'm going to kind of do like a story run through, and then maybe the games that I feel are worth diving even more further into, I'll revisit. But for now, my goal is just to check out these universes and these storylines and see if I have a favorite Fallout game, or if I have a favorite Bethesda game, or even just RPG in general. Published by Bethesda Softworks and developed by Obsidian Entertainment, Fallout New Vegas serves as the follow-up to the critically acclaimed 2008 release of Fallout 3. Directed by Fallout series veteran Josh Sawyer, New Vegas utilizes the same engine Gamebryo as Bethesda games prior, including Fallout 3. New Vegas also shares many assets from the third mainline game. In addition to its initial release, New Vegas includes post-game support in the form of 6 downloadable content packs available for the game, with 4 story add-ons, 3 of which were directed and conceived by Chris Avellone and 1 directed and conceived by Josh Sawyer. The Fallout New Vegas Ultimate Edition adds several new adventures and challenges for players: Dead Money, Honest Hearts, Old World Blues, and Lonesome Road, and 2 DLC bundles, Gun Runner's Arsenal and Courier Stash. The additional content increases the level cap from 30 to 50. Let's dive even deeper into the world of Fallout New Vegas as we explore the Ultimate Edition and all of its offerings. So the first DLC pack is Dead Money Sierra Madre, and this is a story add-on. There's 4 of them. And Dead Money initially released on December 21st, 2010 for the Xbox 360. It takes players on a thrilling, semi-frustrating heist to the Sierra Madre Casino. You work alongside 3 other compelling characters, your fellow captives, to retrieve the fabled treasure hidden within the casino's vault. I enjoyed the story, characters, and aesthetic of Dead Money, but the limited enemy variety, empty locations around the casino, and repetitive gameplay restrictions dragged the pacing down. The pacing of the action and traversal definitely felt like it could have used more of an open-ended sandbox approach. Me personally, I think I gravitate more towards the gameplay of Skyrim or Morrowind or Fallout 3, whereas Fallout New Vegas' style is just more inspired by the original Fallout games as opposed to the Bethesda GameWorks style of gameplay that's kind of more open-ended. So I would say that for Sierra Madre, the characters are really compelling, and I really enjoyed the storyline, but overall, like, the linearity of it definitely felt restrictive, and I would say towards the end, some of the challenges of the Sierra Madre as you get deeper in start to become a little too, I would say, distracting, because towards the end of the DLC, you're very aware that you're at the end, but there's just all these little annoying game mechanics that drag it out to be longer. And so I think the world and the characters and the vibe is all great and worth diving into, but definitely be prepared to be frustrated towards the end. I've purposely avoided reading other reviewers or watching other reviewers take on Dead Money Sierra Madre, because I wanted to first reward myself with no spoilers, just going in fresh, and I'm glad I did that. But there was one point towards the end where I did have to pull out a guide, because I thought to myself, there's no way that this is how they designed this level. Like, I had to have taken a wrong turn or zoned out, and I must need to go back and do something, or I must be coming at it from the wrong direction. If you're familiar with the Fallout games by Bethesda, or at least on the Gamebryo engine, they are a little akin to a Doom retro title, where the map seems sometimes more of a puzzle than a map that's leading you to your destination. So in this case, in the third act, the map gets wild, even before the third act. And I'm not someone who intuitively can just guess where I'm supposed to go. And so the way that the exterior world and the interior world are designed, it definitely feels like it was designed in a more challenging way than it needed to be, especially because I enjoyed the characters and the storyline and the dialogue more. The traversal, I would say, was pretty frustrating, even to the point where you're almost platforming a section. And I think if you're familiar with this game engine and have played Fallout 3 and the main campaign of Fallout New Vegas, you can understand that platforming is not what you expect in a Bethesda title. So that would be my gripe with Dead Money, Sierra Madre. I did have fun, enjoyed the ambience. I wish there were more creatures or enemies, more characters. The goal of the ambience of the Sierra Madre is to be a vacant casino, and parts of that feel a little bit like they nailed the vacancy a bit too well, to where it could have used some more variation and some more characters. It definitely feels the most like a BioShock game, but what BioShock is great at is their NPCs, as they're half scaring you, half threatening you, they bring life. And even though it's a dark world, there's still the feeling of others around. And I think that this could have benefited more from that. I also think it could have been tightened up just a little bit, and I'm afraid that the platforming fluffed it up longer than it needed to be. And yeah, there's definitely frustrating elements. I don't want to spoil too much, and maybe that'll change for me over the years, or maybe when I revisit it, kind of knowing what to expect, maybe I'll view it as a higher tier DLC story add-on. I'm grateful that they made it. I think they did a lot of things right, but I would definitely say it wasn't my favorite out of the 4. So let's move on to the next one. Honest Hearts was directed by Josh Sawyer. He describes his underlying motivations for the story as, quote, "In Honest Hearts, I wanted to convey the sense of wonder which I found in going to Zion in real life. So my goal with the team was that I wanted to make the prettiest environment that we can in this engine. A beautiful, natural setting, and build it around the idea of these tribes coming together and fighting, with Joshua Graham sort of in the center of it. Also, the other big goal that I had for Honest Hearts was that I wanted to have a real-world religion as a major theme in the story that was dealt with seriously and not as a joke." End quote. Honest Hearts did not draw me into its world quite as much as the other story add-on DLCs in the New Vegas Ultimate Edition, because by the time I got to it, I was very deep into trying to complete Fallout New Vegas and all of the DLCs. So I have this terrible habit of speed reading exposition, so the storyline was a bit tough for me to follow. I love Josh Sawyer's implementation of skill checks throughout New Vegas, but often I only zone into the stories that I find the most compelling. And with all of the DLCs, I intended to complete all the quests without forcing myself to invest into every line of dialogue. Zion National Park was a great selection for a location, but compared to Big Mountain's simplicity or Sierra Madre's mystery or the Lonesome Road's intrigue, I felt that the other locations spoke more to my imagination and playstyle. In Honest Hearts, players join a trading expedition to Zion National Park in Utah. When their caravan is attacked by tribal raiders, they find themselves stranded and caught in the middle of a conflict between the local tribes. Slight spoilers ahead, but at the entrance of Zion National Park, the first act of the story definitely threw me for a loop because I thought it may be one of those escort the NPC missions. So I was worried I failed immediately. I was looking forward to venturing with this party, and I liked the characters in it, so I was a little bit bummed that right at the very start, you find out you're not going to be traveling with them. I thought that would have been a cool opportunity to introduce a squad-based quest line. As you navigate the treacherous landscape, you'll encounter the Burned Man, a feared and revered figure who survived being set on fire and thrown into the Grand Canyon. I'm glad to have the extra content that Honest Hearts provides, but I wish there was more of a sense of discovery with this world. Even though I played it this week, it feels like a mostly forgettable experience compared to some of my favorite quests in the New Vegas Ultimate Edition. Granted, I may have been semi-burned out by the time I got to Honest Hearts, so it's definitely worth the playthrough because you might find that the story is super compelling and totally worth the playtime. Just give yourself some time between all the different quests that are offered in the main game and these story add-ons, because I think that all of these DLC add-ons deserve their own space apart from the main story to be enjoyed at a leisurely pace as opposed to quote-unquote rushing through it like I did. This DLC pack does include new achievements. It has crafting recipes, new perks, terrain, items, enemies, and decisions for players to enjoy, as well as increasing the level cap. And this definitely makes me want to go back and read which perks it added, because that is one core element of Fallout's gameplay that I love, is the reward of experiencing, leveling up, and adding new perks that impact your playstyle. So for that reason alone, I'm grateful for the team for adding so much content to this game. In the Old World Blues DLC pack, players are abducted and become lab rats in a science experiment gone wrong. As they explore the pre-war research centers of Big Mountain, also known as the Big Empty or Big MT, which my brain initially interpreted as MIT for some reason, they uncover the origins of some of the Mojave's mutated creatures and dangerous technology. What I love about the Fallout formula is its simplicity in the gameplay loop, which I ascribe to a Monster of the Week formula. There is always a complex, morally misguided character at the end of a story that unveils his or her scheme. And there's something satisfying about that loop. I appreciated the layout of Big Mountain. The circular design of the map enabled my brain to reserve its problem-solving functions for the dungeons, monsters, and loot, as opposed to devoting energy towards traversal, discovery, and pathfinding. What I also appreciate about these expansions is the fact that there's fully voiced characters. Especially in Big Mountain, there are so many great performances across the board in a cast that's really unique and fun. And I think this is probably my second favorite DLC story add-on because of the rich story and character performances and dungeons. It feels like it has the full package that I'm looking for as a Fallout player. It's one of those stories that's simple enough to follow along if you just treat the game as a way to discover cool places, talk to cool characters, discover new weapons. And I appreciate that because often I find with New Vegas that sometimes it's easier to tune out the story, whereas Fallout 3's story is a lot more centralized and linear and simple in a way. I think the Fallout New Vegas world benefits more from multiple playthroughs, and I just think there's a lot more to digest in every quest line, and I appreciate that. But I think it's always best when Fallout New Vegas is showcasing and displaying its story while also utilizing the fun adventure feel of Fallout 3. And I think this DLC story add-on does a really great job of playing to both Josh Sawyer and Chris Avellone's strengths as writers and game directors, but also I think it feels very Bethesda, which is nice, which to me means a simple loop of discovery, quests, and exploration that feel effortless while also presenting enough of a challenge to require you to be creative in your loadout and facing enemies. And so I thought Big Mountain really brought back what I love about Fallout. All right, so Lonesome Road is the fourth add-on pack and is probably my favorite. I love the map. I love exploring the location, the loot that they offer, and it just felt like the most complete story add-on. I thought the writing was great, the characters are great, the enemy design. There was really no element of it that I would have wanted to be differently. It felt like it was the right amount of challenge while still having a great flow and sense of discovery. So I would say that one was my favorite. If I were to review all of them, I think my favorite is Lonesome Road. Second would probably be Old World Blues. Third would probably be tied between Honest Hearts and Dead Money because they're both so different. Dead Money is really mysterious and dark and ambient and lonely, and check them all out if you haven't and you just want to see more Fallout. If you only want to play the cream of the crop, I would say that's probably the Big Mountain and Lonesome Road. just because they feel like they have a lot of depth, and you can really invest your time and feel like you're making progress and not just dealing with frustrating challenges or locational issues. But I'm really excited to read other reviews and see what other people thought in the community of Fallout. But I would say, as my experience, I thought it was worth checking out, and I would recommend, like doing each DLC in order of release so you have the best for last, and then just kind of spread them out and return to the main Mojave and then come back and just kind of explore the DLCs in little bite-sized chunks, as opposed to what I did, which is going all at it all at once. But yeah, if you want to play one story add-on per weekend or even in a longer game session, totally could get through it. If you want to spread it out over a couple weeks, you could get through all 4 in like 2 weeks of 1 to 2 hour gaming sessions at a time. So let me know what you thought of this video. Leave a comment below, like it, subscribe, and stay tuned for a Fallout 3 DLC review impression. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.